9:15 now on Sunday Sequence. 11:15 in Ukraine, in Kiev, and Ukrainians are in day 4 of an unthinkable situation. Their sovereign, independent country in Europe invaded by Russia. Russian tanks, soldiers, aircraft, naval ships attacking military, infrastructural and civilian targets across the country. A curfew is in place in the capital, Kiev. It will remain in place until tomorrow morning. A move being interpreted as a sign of a brutal offensive to come. Tens of thousands of men, women and children there have spent the night underground in bomb shelters, in metro stations, in underground car parks. Hundreds of thousands are fleeing the country, making their way by foot or train or car to the safety of Poland and other EU countries. We can go live now to Ukraine, to the capital, and join our correspondent there, Sarah Firth. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us from Kiev this morning. Will you tell us exactly where you are?
Sure. So right now I'm sat in the bomb shelter of the hotel where we've been for the last 4 nights since Russia invaded on Thursday. And right now what I'm seeing is all the mattresses on the floor and the beds. There are some people that are sleeping. It is understandably extremely tense. It was another very long night as people here were waiting to see the level of escalation from the Russian side. Overnight, I heard the sound of very heavy artillery around midnight to 1 a.m. and that continued sort of throughout the night. Luckily, the civilians here in the shelter didn't hear much of that, and that was sort of on the outskirts of Kiev, but not the full-blown assault that was expected overnight. But people here are just, as you said, there's a curfew, so at the moment everyone's just waiting very tensely to see what happens, and just an utter sense of disbelief that this is playing out on the streets of Kiev right now, that Russia has been able to launch this war. And I think it's quite important to speak to some of the civilians that are here. So I'm going to speak to Svetlana, whose 8-month-old baby is currently asleep. I can see her on the mattress, just taking a rest. Thankfully sleeping. Svetlana, thank you for speaking to us. You're from Donetsk originally, and you've been in Kiev for
8 years. Yeah.
8 years.
Hi. Hello.
And your baby's name is?
Netan.
Netan, and 8 months old.
Yes, he's 8 months old, and we have another son here, 6 months old, 6 years old.
Okay, and how are you feeling right now?
Frustrating. We don't understand what we did to deserve this kind of situation, and especially for the kids. We don't know what will be tomorrow, and it's the second time in our life that this happens. But when it was in Donetsk, we had no kids and we had time to run, and now we don't have time. So we'll see what happens. But there is nothing we can do. We feel powerless. We have no choice. We are just here to survive for now and hope for best. That's it.
And how are the children doing?
My oldest son, he understands more or less what's going on, but it looks like he is protecting himself because he is taking it as a game. The younger one, thanks God, he doesn't understand what's going on, and unfortunately, it's only first night that we are in such circumstances that we can at least sleep, and it's warm and it's dry. The other 2 nights we were in bomb shelter near our house because we live in the presidential quarter, in the very center near president's administration on the 6th floor. So we had to go down to underground shelter near our house, and for them it was very difficult because they couldn't sleep, and it was quite cold and wet. And my younger son just had COVID, so he's still taking inhalations, he's coughing, and so now we are quite happy that we are here.
Yeah. You said you've already been displaced once from the east, and you've been in Kiev.
We were in Donetsk 8 years ago.
I mean, you said you felt frustration. How is it to have seen this war go on for 8 years and only now that this is it?
No, we had more or less same feelings when it started in Donetsk because I was born in Donetsk, and my husband and all my family, we are from Donetsk, and we had to run once. We had this feeling, but it was a bit different for me personally because I was alone. I didn't have kids, and I had choice to stay or to go. Now I have no choice, and this is our country, and we don't want to leave from here, and we actually have no time to run because it starts all of a sudden, and I'm not ready to go somewhere by car or by train, being somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and we see that the bombs are coming all around the country, and for us it's a bit safer here now.
What would you like the world to know about the situation right now as a Ukrainian?
The truth. That's all. I want everybody to know the truth. That's the most important, and especially I think it's important that Russian people, I'm not talking about all the sick people that are ruling the country. I'm talking about people that live there. It's important that they know the truth, because I'm quite sure that all the world knows what's going on here, but not Russian and Belarusian people.
Thank you, Svetlana. And that was Svetlana speaking. As you heard, she's been displaced once before. If you've got time, I've got another mother here who's
by all
trapped.
means, Sarah, yes, we really want to hear from people there who are going through this.
Okay, so as you heard from Svetlana, who's already been displaced from Donetsk from the east once and has been in Kiev, this war's been going on for 8 years. The hotel bomb shelter that we're currently at is warm. The Ukrainian staff are doing an amazing job providing food and making sure everyone's feeling safe and protected. And in the meantime, those staff are phoning their families and worrying about what's going on around the country. Katerina is a mother. She's Ukrainian but has Turkish residency and is trying to get back to Turkey right now. Lena, how are you feeling right now? You've been here through this all. We've been here for, I think, 4 nights now.
Yeah. It's so difficult to explain what is happening because we are just praying. We are afraid of all of this situation, and it's difficult to us just to sit and wait because we never know what's gonna happen. And we are praying. We hope that it will and it will be finished soon. And I'm just thinking about my daughter who is waiting for me in Turkey with my husband, and they are praying for all of us as well, and we hope that everything will be fixed until it's not too late. So we just waiting, and also I would like to mention, as Sarah already did, that the staff of the hotel, they are amazing. They providing us with all necessary things, and no panic, and they just helping us. And Sarah also is an amazing person who is taking care about all of us and trying to do her best to help us and to show the situation from inside.
Katerina, you were talking the other day about the conversations you're having with your daughter right now. Can you just tell people what those conversations are and what your daughter asked your husband?
Yeah, she asked. She just told him that I hope that my mom won't die, and that's all she said about the situation. So she just 5 years old, and in April she will be 6, and I hope we will be together already and celebrate her birthday, and the situation the world war will stop. That's all.
What are you telling her right now when you're speaking to her?
I'm not trying to explain. I'm not trying to tell her how it is here to wait and to hear all the bomb sounds. I'm just trying to ask how is she, and I'm trying to tell her how much I love her, how much I miss her, and we are making plans. When I will come back home to Turkey, to Antalya, that we will go to cinema. We will spend more time together, just to give her hope that I will come back. Mother will be very soon. We will be together, and everything will be okay. That's all we do. That's all we can do at this moment.
And what's the wait been like? Obviously, we've seen people having a very hard time, and you're right. The Ukrainian staff looking after foreign nationals is, it's incredible to witness. The people are, Ukrainian people are continuing to do their job to protect others when Ukraine seems so unprotected at the moment. The Ukrainian military fighting so hard to hold off Russian forces from taking the capital. Katerina, how's the wait been for you? I mean, I can see obviously the tiredness and stress on your face, and what's it like right now? Because we're all stuck in place with the curfew for the next day.
Every minute we hope, we think that our government will send the bus, the mission to pick us up from here. But also I'm afraid of the other citizens of Ukraine, actually, because firstly, Russians, they told us that any civilian will be hit, and we can see here, when we are now here, we can see that it's not true. So we're just praying for all the citizens of Ukraine, and we hope that nothing bad gonna happen.
And obviously, you are Ukrainian and you speak Ukrainian. So what's it like to watch Russia launch this war on the country?
We didn't expect such a situation, such forces, because, I have many relatives in Ukraine. I have many relatives in Russia. So I don't think that any Russians wish that war happened. And it's very strange, when they are telling that we are sisters and brothers. And after this enemy attack, we didn't expect, and it's so strange, so difficult to live in this situation, and to realize that it happened already, and they are trying to do more. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Everyone is so exhausted. You're listening to Katerina, trying to get reunited with her daughter in Turkey right now. Everyone is very tired and anxious, understandably, and often you hear the sounds of the heavy artillery around the outskirts of Kiev. And as we said, the resilience that's been shown by the Ukrainians that we've witnessed is unimaginable. They've been so brave. They've been so brave. But in the quieter moments, you watch the staff members at this hotel are on the phones to their families. And, frankly, 4 days into this now, you've seen quite a lot of people breaking down in tears. There is a huge, overwhelming sense of grief amongst Ukrainians watching what's happening in their country. Everyone is very proud of their military, the Ukrainian military. All the Ukrainians that we're speaking to are saying that they're very proud that they've managed to hold off the Russian forces in this way. So the situation now is, as you've heard from two mothers there who are waiting and watching. The whole country is waiting and watching. And thoughts with soldiers, I've embedded with the last few months with Ukrainian soldiers up in the east. They are highly motivated. They've got a very strong morale. It's clear that Russia and Russian forces were not expecting this kind of fierce resistance that the Ukrainian military has put up. When I've spoken to the soldiers and embedded with them in the east of the country, when we asked about this exact situation playing out, there was no fear. They said, we know what we need to do. So everyone in the military that we've spoken to, extremely focused and committed to defending their territory. and amongst civilians, as you've heard, they're just, utter grief, a lot of anxiety, and just disbelief that in 2022 Russia's launched this war on Ukraine, that this is happening in Europe, that the Ukrainian military are being left to defend their capital, and just hope at the moment that they are able to hold off Russian forces from taking Kiev. And as we said, there's a curfew in place now around the capital. So long, tense nights, stress on everyone's faces, a lot of tears and grief amongst Ukrainians. And now we wait to see what happens next.
Sarah, that was incredibly powerful testimony there from Katerina and from Svetlana. Very difficult to find the words to know what to say to people who are living this right now as we are speaking to you, talking to us from the bomb shelter in a hotel where you've spent last night and the nights before and will spend tonight as well. Is everyone, are all civilians in bomb shelters of some description, whether it's underground car parks or tube stations or whatever, or are some still in their houses?
Some people are still in their homes, even from the positions where I can get a view and an assessment when the fighting escalates of what is happening. I can see the sort of, as you see and hear, the heavy artillery fire, and during those times on the streets around us, you can see some of the civilians that have remained in their homes coming out occasionally to look out on their balconies at what's happening. Also doing the same, I imagine, assessing how far the fighting is from this location. I have a very brave cameraman, Max Levin, who is on the front line with soldiers right now. He is following their progress, and a lot of the images that the world will be seeing right now about the Ukrainian military and the fierce resistance that they're launching, those images will be coming from very brave journalists like Max, who are putting their lives on the line as well, along with the Ukrainian military. Civilians have, if they can, gotten hold of arms. Every single Ukrainian we've spoken to, just deeply, deeply committed to defending their land and their territory. They've had a war launched on their country by Russia. They've been in the east, certainly, but the country has been at war with Russia. It was called a frozen conflict, but, we went to those front lines in the east of the country around occupied Donetsk and Luhansk, and Russia had already invaded. This is the second invasion. So for 8 years, a lot of people have been displaced, and like Svetlana, you heard there, have already been displaced from the east to Kiev. And whilst we were up in the east with the military, I mean, that was that they were in trenches and have been for the last 8 years, holding off what were called, Russian-backed separatists. But if you speak to the soldiers, the Russians, they were being supplied with weaponry by the Russians. And so the soldiers had a great deal of awareness about what was coming and about the fact that trench warfare around those occupied territories in the east, the conflict that's currently playing out is of a completely different level. But they are, over the last 8 years, they are highly trained, highly motivated. Some of the soldiers that I spoke to, they said that, the Ukraine has been at war for 8 years with Russia, and it's only now that the world has woken up to what's happening. And another soldier told me, Alexei, his nickname is Godzilla. I have no idea at this moment whether he's alive or not. An amazing man. And his father was killed in fighting a few years ago. He's been fighting on the front lines. He said that he wanted the world to know that Kiev is the forepost right now of Europe. So what happens here, what Russia is doing here, this war that Russia is launching, he said it's not going to stop it in Ukraine. It's going to affect the whole world. So just a sense that from a lot of the military, at least that we've been with over the last 2 months, reporting with and embedded with, I've slept in the frontline positions with them. They feel like Europe and the world sort of walked a little bit towards this point. And now there is obviously very serious military aid and assistance being provided, and very serious actions being taken by the international community to try and stop Russia doing what it's doing right now. But of course, there's a real sense that it's just too late, because now the country's at war, and the Ukrainian military are facing down the Russian invaders, and that battle for the capital right now is going on. It's obviously a very rapidly developing situation. So, sort of every few hours or so you get updates, and overnight the fighting over the last few nights has, you can hear it's escalated. But last night the city was bracing, and the civilians here were bracing for the sort of full Russian assault. There's a sense that because the Ukrainian defense has been so strong, that possibly Russia is going to try and just throw everything they have at this and launch a large-scale, artillery, rocket fire missiles, and maybe airstrikes. But we haven't seen that so far from our position. We've just had the heavy artillery fire on the outskirts of Kiev. And as I said, just unbelievable to see this war playing out, to see the actions that Russia's been able to take. And again, in this incredibly, desperately devastating moment for Ukrainians, they are also showing just incredible acts of love and bravery. And
Sarah, listening to Katerina, no 5-year-old should have to ask if their mother is going to stay alive. I mean, that is just, it's unimaginable, that the anxiety, the trauma of what's happening now, but also worrying, desperately worrying about what's to come.
Yes, and I think, in this shelter, there's a real awareness. Everyone really trying to keep calm, because there are lots of children here. There are little babies. There's a 3-month-old baby. You spoke to Svetlana, who has her 8-month-old baby and her older child. So, the civilians are doing the right thing. The Ukrainian staff at this hotel, in between calls to their families across the country right now, and as they're watching their country being attacked in this way and this war being waged, are also making sure that foreign nationals here who are trapped, who are trying to get evacuated, are looked after. They're feeding everyone. They're going about their jobs. They're making sure everyone has blankets and mattresses and a place to sleep. And then in quieter moments in between doing their job, you're watching the Ukrainians working here, speaking to their families and crying, and heads in hands, and people telling their families that they love them, because no one really knows what's going to happen next. Everyone has, really come together. There's a sense of unity in this shelter. People who were strangers 4 days ago are now looking after one another very well. And I think for the foreigners here, journalists like myself, and for foreign nationals trapped, just a real awareness that, for the Ukrainian civilians right now, this is as desperate as it gets, and we're witnessing their strength and bravery. I want the whole world to know that. In the face of this Russian attack, this Russian act of war, Ukrainians are showing the world right now who they are. And they're strong, and they're resilient, and they're continuing to work. They're continuing to fight to defend their territory. The Ukrainian military are doing that incredibly effectively right now, without the sort of defense that they should have been provided with a long time ago by the international community. But here they are, in the middle of this war now, with this battle for Kiev happening. And as I said, we're witnessing, in a very desperate moment, very, very small but important acts of unity and love and kindness and strength and bravery from Ukrainians. And now we wait.
Now we wait. Sarah, we are so grateful to you. Thank you for bringing us all inside that bomb shelter this morning, for your witness to what's been happening there over the last number of days, and for allowing us to hear the stories of Svetlana and Katerina and their families. We're very grateful to you. Stay safe, and thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning on Sunday Sequence.